Egypt and the classical world cross-cultural encounters in antiquity. To Isis the Great, Lady of Benevento, privately dedicated Egyptian obelisks in Imperial Rome and the twin obelisks of Benevento Reedited Part 3. The Borgia, Albani. We must also remember that these obelisks inscriptions were not written purely according to the whimsy of Egyptian priests. Far from it, they were prepared following the instructions of their powerful dedicators, based at least in part on original drafts in Greek or Latin, and their preparation surely must have entailed a serious investment of money and time, which was bound to be much bigger than anything required for comparable Egyptiaca that were instead covered in gibberish inscriptions. Necessarily, the Roman sponsors of such inscribed monuments were therefore fully conscious of the specific meaning of the hieroglyphic carvings incorporated into their dedications, and would have had an interest in advertising it. In fact, I even wonder whether the hieroglyphic inscriptions of these novel obelisks would have been made accessible to the Roman public, at least in some cases, by means of Latin translations. These need not necessarily have been published as accompanying epigraphs to the obelisk, something of which we have no evidence, but could have been easily circulated in other, more perishable forms, perhaps as opuscular. To be sure, we do know that at least one Greek version of the hieroglyphic inscriptions of an Egyptian obelisk dating to pharaonic antiquity, and re-erected in Rome by Augustus 27 BC AD 14, the Flaminio obelisk existed and was read in Antiquity. If translations of the inscriptions of ancient pharaonic obelisks re-erected in Rome, Italy could be published and disseminated, mostly as an erudite curiosity, would it not make all the more sense to suppose that something alike was done for obelisks, containing custom-made inscriptions immortalizing living figures, be they the reigning emperor, and/or a private dedicator who had an active interest in having the details of their Egyptian architectural feats known? After all, modesty and subtlety were not virtues in which the Romans of the Imperial age excelled. All of the above is what makes these artifacts, both Roman and Egyptian from the very moment of their conception, and thus objects worthy of investigation for the Roman historian and the Egyptologist alike. It is thus no surprise that inscribed Roman obelisks should attract special attention among scholars, and that the detailed study of their inscriptions and the information carried therein should be a key component in their historical assessment. This is why I feel justified in singling out these artifacts as pertaining to a specific and indeed important class among Egyptiaca, and in devoting a study to a particular subgroup among them, that of inscribed Roman obelisks dedicated by private individuals. So let us now discuss the actual specimens of this corpus, that is, the Borgia, Albani, and, in special detail, Benevento obelisks. Egypt and the classical world cross-cultural encounters in antiquity. To Isis the Great, Lady of Benevento, privately dedicated Egyptian obelisks in Imperial Rome and the twin obelisks of